All right, hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Vandal, and we are back with another DAOdrops exclusive interview with Sonic Medicine. What's going on?
Hey!
Awesome. So I'm super happy to have you here, especially on this interview leading up to the 21st of May. And this is going to be, broadcasted live inside of the Crypto Voxels DAOdrops venue. The virtual world meets the real world, meets music and NFTs. So let's kick it off. I think the first question I want to ask is, maybe give a little introduction to Sonic Medicine. And I personally want to know sort of what's the story behind the name and maybe how all of you came together. So go ahead.
Take it away, David. I guess I'll take that one. I came up with the band name and in large part put this together with Jim and Alicia originally. Jim and I started meeting around 2013. And we met at the Old Rainier Brewery building once upon a time, and got going on some of our songs. And we did some demos with another friend of ours, Greedy Greg Williamson, who Jim and Alicia know. And Jim and I got together because of Greedy Greg, who put us together. They had worked together before. How many times can I say and but also it was good. And then we got Alicia involved, and it was the three of us and our friends Andy Peace, who has now passed away, and Bowie McLean. They were the drummer and bass player at first. And the idea behind the band is just Sonic Medicine. It's kind of self-descriptive in a way. It's meant to be cathartic. It's meant to be emotional. And it's meant to be kind of epic, which is something that our producer, Jack and Dino, brought up. Jack and Dino is working with us to finish the album that we're now releasing. And he and his wife mentioned that it has an epic feel to it. And so that's kind of the word I've been throwing around now. It does have kind of a large presence to the sound, but it's a full spectrum sound. We have violin, we have bari sax, we have synthesizers in the bass and in other keyboard registers. And then there's guitar and drums and vocals. And it's just sort of a full range sound. So I think epic does describe it well, but it is meant to be cathartic and emotional. Those are definitely core ingredients as well. Topically in the music, I've chosen to write about serious things, whether it's political or personal, reflective, or societal kind of commentary. It's all kind of serious. For what it's worth, that's just kind of where my head goes. So that's the kind of material that we're getting it from. And that's about all I can say about that for you.
And what would you say some of the musical influences are for the band, and maybe sort of where you draw your inspirations from, like sound-wise?
Well, that's a great question too. I think a lot of it comes down to, we talk a lot about the band Morphine, which has a rock feel, but also has a lot of jazz and blues influence. And Jim being a bari sax player, we've always connected over that band Morphine, and what Mark Sandman did with that. And there's a lot of influences. I came to Seattle because of all this music that's come out of Seattle. So I'd say, and working with Jack is partly because of that. There's a lot of influence from other Seattle bands before us. I got Billy involved because I really wanted to complete the picture of having that sort of all-encompassing sound availability. And to me, what was missing was in the bass, I wanted fuzzy, round, fat tones in the bass under the bari. And so I'm a sound engineer. That's one of my things. So I approached Billy about playing, especially bass synth in the group, as a layer that would be underneath the Barry and sort of stack things up like that. It goes, you know, bass synth, then the Barry, then the guitar, and then the violin. And that's the core of the, that's the meat of the sound right there. And it's largely these guys and gal.
That's right.
Nice. Okay, so before you know, embarking on this project and working with Jack, what are some of the other you know, projects that you've been involved in, maybe before Sonic Medicine, or also together with Sonic Medicine as recording previous materials?
Okay, well, should I be answering this, or you can?
We'll all chime. Well,
Yeah,
Alicia and
yeah,
I,
hop in there.
Alicia and I met and became a couple because we toured with Jeremy Enoch back in the 90s. Not signed to real estate, but Jeremy Enoch had a solo project and had a small orchestra that he toured with. And so I was doing clarinet, some flute, some piccolo, unfortunately. And then I met Alicia, she played violin. So we had met through that. And always been, I'm from Seattle originally, mainly in the jazz scene for many years, but then I got hooked into the rock scene, which is and was awesome. And that's Alicia came from the East Coast, from?
The DC area, basically.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually played guitar in a couple of bands before I knew Jim, Big Sister and Extra Virgin. And then I played violin in those too. And then basically met up with the Jeremy Enoch crowd, and yeah, we did 3 tours with them. And then Jim and I now play in a band here in Seattle called Moraine, which we've been with for many, many years.
And that's where I got into the electronics with the Barry, and that's when I think Dave heard about us.
Yes,
Dave,
because
and he came over, and it was a duo for a little while. We did one gig for sure.
Just you, me, and the drums.
Yeah, you, me, and drums, which was tough because the Barry stops playing and there's nothing there or too much. So, but it was fun, man. I knew he had some good music, and I'm like, I don't know, this kid, you know, I'm a little older. This guy's got something going on. I like his voice, and I'm just going to stick with it. It was a long time.
Yeah,
working with these tunes, just working them out and trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do. Like, what do you want? You know?
It's been a journey, and the arrangements have evolved over time. We did do some demos before with Greedy Greg, but the songs continued to take shape. And like I said, I got Billy involved to round out the sound in the low end, and that to me is a key piece of the picture.
Yeah, nice.
And it's something that we haven't had before with the earlier demos. So it's been instrumental, if you will.
I like that. So
Billy definitely has played in a bunch of bands as well.
Go for it, Billy.
I think so. Yeah.
That's your cue.
I don't know. A bunch. I guess most notably, like the Dusty 45s. I've been playing with the last 5 years or so. I'm currently playing with a band called the Chasers, which is pretty rad.
Yeah, they're great.
Kind of a Queens of the Stone Age punk rock kind of thing. I've had my own bands for a long time and a lot of session work, you know, which is kind of what I started doing with him. I saw these guys play at the Parliament, which is kind of a small place, but Dave had fucking giant visuals and movies and shit playing behind him.
Multimedia, we like
I
that.
actually have video of it. I was like, oh, I gotta capture this, you know.
Right.
So it's cool that he asked me to be a part of it. He wanted me to kind of electronic guys. I just made up that word for you.
That's good. Thank you.
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, we like that.
You're welcome. And so I kind of just tried to be almost, you know, not really a Trent Reznor for the sound, but kind of like a Trent Reznor for the sound.
Yeah.
You know, adding bass and the kind of rhythmic patterns, synthetic rhythmic patterns and strings and overlays and things like that to complement really the baritone and the violin more so than the guitar or the vocals.
The guitar kind of is the counter to those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I love hearing these stories, especially, you know, seeing the four of you there and you know, the type of banter only musicians who've worked together before can have. You know? So let's get into the song itself. You know, Ripple Effect. Maybe like walk us through sort of the meaning or purpose of the song, the maybe some of the
Sure.
inspiration, both vocally and musically.
Yeah, it's just kind of it's kind of a banger in a way. It's a rock song that just has a kind of a medium or up tempo, and I would say it's again another self-explanatory kind of title. It's about sort of karmic development as far as you do good, you know, good's going to happen. You do wrong, wrong will happen, and it's a ripple effect. I have a tendency to title things with words that are not in the song, and this is one of those cases. So it's kind of funny that way, because actually a bunch of the first songs on the album are titles that are not words that occur in the song. It's just a songwriting thing, but this is one of those cases. It's not actually in the words, but it is in the meaning of the words. And the ending of the song is, let's see if I can remember it right now. Everyone affects everything. Everything affects your being. Everyone affects everything. Everyone affects your being. So again, just the idea of everything being connected and kind of just karmic development and return and a ripple effect. So that's sort of the idea. And the ending of the song is this very climactic thing. When people hear it today at the drop party and hereafter, they'll understand what I'm talking about. It's just sort of a banger song where it just kind of rocks along, and then you get this complete left turn out of nowhere in the middle of the violin solo, if you will. But it's actually the end of the violin solo because it turns into this crescendo. And it's a fun ending. Personally, it's one of my favorite chord progressions that I've written. So at the end of that song. So there you go.
And what's the usual, like the usual process in terms of, you know, how the music evolves? Is there like contributions from each member of the group in terms of that, or is there one particular person who kind of has the idea? And how does that, you know, how do you communicate with each other, like, you know, who needs to do what and when, and working out the finer points musically?
That's a good question. In the past, I guess I'm taking a lot of these.
Yeah,
but,
please do.
But in the past, I've come with the core of the song at the beginning, and we fleshed it out from there. Jim and Alicia and I batted around a lot. Like Jim was pointing out, and Billy was pointing out also, the lines that they contribute complement each other and kind of work together a lot of the time. And so there's a lot of back and forth between the instrument writers of the band. I'll come in with basically the chord progression, the structure of the song, and the words and melody already. But then everything else is built around it. And since it's such a big sound, that is quite a process. It doesn't happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Can I ask something?
Yeah, please do, Billy.
If you don't mind. One of my favorite things about this whole project is that, you know, Dave would make these demos, and they, you know, were basics, you know, bass, drums, guitars, vocals, you know, just to give everybody an idea of what was going on. But then when he asked us to lay our tracks over that, he really didn't tell us anything to do. So, I mean, I think it pays a lot of respect to the musicianship of these other people that we were all able to layer the epic sonic value of the song with just by being musicians.
Right.
You know, as opposed to being sheep to a dictator.
Right. Yes.
I appreciate that comment too. I do, because I felt that way. I picked these guys and gal because they're really great musicians, and it's true what Billy said. I didn't want to over direct in any way, and I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, well, it was a nice way to work.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a nice way to work. And plus, so when David and I first got together, I'm like,
I don't know. It's weird.
David and I got together, I was kind of relegated to doing bass lines, some of the Barry players, just me and David. But as soon as I started to free up a little bit, then it was like, oh, then you can start hearing all the stuff.
Yeah.
I don't just need to stick to that. I definitely want to stay low, Barry player and all that, but now I can start to explore the baritone sax itself, range-wise,
Yes.
as we have the violin, as we have the keys. And that was really great. And I was not hip to the whole synthesizer bass thing, but I am now.
They all
We
okay.
fought you, man.
For the truth of it is, they all wanted a electric bass player on bass guitar,
But now,
which is standard for rock and roll. But they're all sold on it now.
yeah.
No,
I'm
it,
glad you guys kept that. For
I don't know. He just turns for the first time.
I mean, that would have caused a lot of anxiety.
yeah. You know, it was before your time.
That's
It was
awesome.
before your
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
All before your time. Yeah.
I like that approach though, because it does sort of make that low end, more dynamic in a lot of ways, and give it
Agreed.
a different feel within, I guess, the rest of the instruments as well, as opposed to just having a bass in there, whether electric or stand up, or key bass as well.
Damn it, you're right.
It is like a ripple effect, right? It's like a ripple
There
effect.
you go. Yeah.
Bringing it
Wow,
back,
that's heady.
bringing it back to the song.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
Nice. So, okay, so let's kind of like dive into sort of the technology side and NFTs, and maybe you can kind of just go into how you got hip to NFTs and your initial thoughts and maybe your first experience. I mean, we were doing a lot of back and forth earlier on and stuff. So what are your thoughts about this technology and the potential that it has, for musicians and creatives?
Well, I was fortunate to know a few people who are in your team, Ian Prebo and Stephen Andrea, and they turned me on to it actually initially because they heard from me that we were making this album and we were working with Jack and Dino and all of that, and they came to me and said, hey, when it's time to put out the music, consider this. And then I looked into it, and it honestly, I think it's going to be a game changer. It really is. It's going to be a big deal. And I think it's great. There's going to be accountability, and that the history and the knowledge of who is the owner is going to be tracked. That's really important, and it's the way it should be. So most of all, I'm very thrilled about that development as far as NFTs go.
Awesome. And I think that, a lot of us sort of musicians and in the music industry have this relationship to the traditional side of the music industry. And now we're seeing this sort of independent, more peer-to-peer use of the blockchain and the blockchain technologies, which, like you described previously, allow sort of a traceability and provenance to a work, and sort of that authenticity and verification through a digital piece that is almost like a physical, as close as you can get to a physical collectible in digital format. And so, you probably have your stories about, the music industry and your experiences in it. And, maybe we can kind of look at like, what are some of the positive things that we should look forward to in trying to create a better music industry for musicians, and maybe how you see this technology could help us get there?
Well, I think that's great. I mean, I don't know what else to add about it. I think that it's something that's unfolding now, and it will continue to develop.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I hope, through our conversations, as well as through this and your experience, not just, with DAOrecords and the wider sort of NFT community, but, also moving forward to experimenting and exploring like on your own and doing different things within it. I hope that that experience is going to be, really incredible for you. I know sometimes, as a good friend of a lot of sort of artistes musicians is technology isn't the strong point for a lot
Right.
of us, and those tend to be sort of the challenges that we face, and in
That's
this
right.
in this modern sort of more digital era of music. I can see how it can become complicated very quickly in terms of the technology. So hopefully we can help facilitate the clarity in terms of that, and assist along the way for the journey.
Yeah. Thank
So
you. That
okay,
would be
so
great. Yeah.
we'll move away from the technology questions now, and get back
Sure.
more to the art. I also wanted to know your relationship with Jack, and how that all came about in terms of creating this project, and what's coming after the ripple effect. What are the waves following the ripples, or the ripples following the effect?
Okay. Well, working with Jack is a development that comes out of my other relationships in the music scene. I know Jack through a mutual friend we had, who's now passed away, Johnny Grazide, and Johnny and I lived together, and Jack and him were in a band together. And I know Jack that way originally, and also because I worked at Slim's Last Chance Saloon, which is a great place that plays live music here in Seattle. And I worked there as a sound engineer, and Jack likes to play there. Jack, the great Jack Endino, likes to play at this little club. And so he would come in there, and I would literally be working with him. So we had a relationship as friends, and we had a relationship in a more professional sense. And when it came time with all the tracks, and I was looking at the whole project, and I just thought, I gotta call Jack. And I called Jack, and
Wise choice.
yeah. So basically, we had all the instruments tracked, and I had to do. I was looking at doing all the vocals by myself, and I thought, I can't do this alone. And it really was one of those moments that kind of humbles you when you realize something's bigger than you are. And we were just talking about this before the meeting, just about the decision to go to Jack being really important, and it really is. It's going to be a big deal for the music. So I'm really happy about that. And there you go. That's the story of how I got in line with Jack. And I called him up, and I told him, I got this big project, and he said, okay, I'm in. And basically that's it. Since then, we've been working together just about every other day almost for the last, I don't know, month and a half, 2 months. It's been a dream come true, honestly. I couldn't tell you enough about it. If you let this interview go on for hours, I'll just keep talking about it. It's been great. Jack is a real master of music. So working with him is really special, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was very exciting to hear those first demos of the first tracks come over. I'm like, holy shit, man.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Freaking great. Because I was like, I don't know what's going on. There's so much stuff. There's me, there's this, there's that. I don't know, I guess. But man, you did the right thing.
Yeah, Jack has got, Jack understands production, and he's bringing the presence of every instrument in at the same time. And we have 6 different sounds going on at the same time. So it's a lot. It's a lot of layers. It's not a traditional setup. You've got bass synth, you've got a guitar, and you've got drums. Those are kind of traditional, but you got the bass synth, you got the Barry, you got the violin. The vocals are kind of emotional and aggressive, and it's a lot going on. And so, yeah, getting him involved has been good. But you asked also about what else we can expect after Ripple Effect. And I think the easiest way to say that is that you're going to see songs that are similar to that, but also some stuff that's different than that. So it's kind of like an anything goes situation.
Nice. I like anything goes. It's always exciting, and
yeah,
that spontaneity in terms of not really knowing what to expect, but knowing it's going to be similar in a lot of ways.
Let me say one more thing. You had asked about influences, about musical influences, and I forgot to mention that Black Star, the album by David Bowie, his last record, is one that I liken to our thing. as well. So I don't know. I feel like I need to plug that because that's another thing that I think people can grab onto that is similar to some of our sound.
Beautiful. It's been so wonderful to talk to you and to get to know a little bit more about, you know, your process, all the members, the music, the song, Ripple Effect, and you know, I want to thank you for taking the time out. And also, I want to ask if you have any shout outs to give anybody, maybe like, you know, anybody who's going to be popping into Crypto Voxels to check this out, to listen to the audio NFTs. Hopefully you're all there as well as avatars in the virtual space.
Yeah.
You know, it's really cool. It's easy to access.
In the future.
Yeah, you just need a browser on your computer and you can pop right in. So you don't need.
Oh, I'll be there. I'll be there.
Anything like that. Don't worry. But yeah, any shout outs?
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to my boy Brandon, who's probably going to be watching this. Hey, Brandon, I hope you buy the song.
Nice.
No, I love that guy. He's my brother.
How about you, Billy?
Greedy Greg, our boy Greedy, who put us together
Some
originally.
ways it's all started from Greedy. Yep.
Yep.
A lot of ways. And Jeremy Enoch.
And Jeremy, yeah, Jeremy. Love Jeremy, man. I saw him. He was in here one day.
Oh, nice.
Anyway.
Billy?
Rip Johnny. Sion.
Yeah. Johnny Grazzi Day, yeah, our friend.
It's been a tough
Alicia?
year.
Yeah, it's great. No, I echo him with Greedy Greg and Jeremy.
All right.
For sure.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Sonic Medicine, 21st of May. The track is Ripple Effect. It's on the wall. Go listen to it live in Crypto Voxels for DAOdrops. Once again, thank you for joining us. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Vandal. We are back with another DAOdrops special, and I got the boys from Squid Ink right here. Fergus and Will, what's going on?
How we doing? Very well.
Awesome. So glad to have you here. I heard you just came out of a rehearsal. You know, how was that? What were you guys rehearsing?
Will wasn't in the rehearsal. Will was DJing at a place called Belgrave in Leeds. And yeah, I have before COVID, I had like a jazz big band that was not your usual jazz big band, but there's about sort of 22 people in there. And obviously when COVID happened, that became not feasible, but we've just restarted with a like reduced band. So I've just come from a rehearsal of that.
Awesome. Okay. So we're here. This is like going to be a really fun DAOdrops because we are dropping this one on Mint Base on Near, and we are super excited with the new Mint Base. And this is going to be our first official DAOrecords drop using Mint Base, and I'm really excited about it. But before we get into the NFT itself, let's just get a bit more information and an introduction to Squid Ink. So tell us all about it.
Let's begin. So yeah, Squid Ink is a quartet made of myself, Fergus, and George McDonald and George Hall, who can't be with us tonight. And basically, we kind of started off doing kind of like instrumental hip hop kind of things, and then we kind of like discovered something a little bit more weirder about ourselves. And we kind of got into like theatrics and kind of like set design and costumes, and the music got pretty balmy as well. And yeah, I suppose we're just kind of like a raucous punk jazz kind of quartet, really.
I wouldn't disagree with that. Another interesting point is we met on an academic jazz course when we were all 18. So like we started playing together. Well, we originally started playing together. We were playing jazz standards and, you know, the music we were studying. And then as we became more familiar with each other, it got weirder. Yeah.
So I know that, you know, being familiar with some of the music from the UK, the live band and live music scene is really popping. And it's something that, you know, the UK is really known for. What were some of your inspirations, like going into, you know, learning jazz and going to school and then what were some of your inspirations individually, I guess we could ask both of you as to, getting you to that point of being in school.
I think I suppose my main inspiration / influence / reason to go to Leeds College of Music was actually a guitarist called Stuart McCullum, who's the guitarist in the Cinematic Orchestra. And that was definitely my, like, I want to go and get taught by him. And I did end up getting taught by him. And funnily enough, he fucking hated Squid Ink.
He did.
But yeah, that was probably my main reason for going there and getting.
What did he call it? He said it was like because all the sections kept on changing. It was like it's like music for like your generation.
Yeah,
just like you have no attention spans and just like scroll on your phone, so you get like a minute of everything, and that's why you can't settle on like a groove or anything. Which is a great description.
Yeah, he's not far wrong. But yeah, that was probably my main reason for going, and then kind of loads of different things get thrown on you at Leeds College of Music, and obviously the Leeds scene, which is like a seriously beautiful thing to be involved in, kind of caught all of our attentions, and now that kind of, I suppose, is our life. But yeah, what do you think?
It's a difficult question, isn't it? Like how I ended up in school is really liked music, and I think I was planning to take a gap year. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do, and then basically my friends all started leaving and it got very boring at home, so I applied last minute to Leeds, mostly because they were the place that wasn't my home that was taking people at that time. And and so I applied about a week before term start. I think Freshers Week maybe started the day after, and it was a thing of applying on the Friday and going on the Monday. So yeah, that was quite a massive decision in retro. At the time, I was like, maybe I'll stay a year, or I won't really know what I'll do. And I've been here nearly 6 years, something like that. I've been here a long time now, and it's become a significant part of my life. So I'm quite glad I did make that sort of quite impulsive decision, really.
That's awesome. So when you guys started out in school, because I would imagine you would have had the opportunity to play different instruments, and maybe you had one particular instrument that was your favorite. Are you playing that instrument now, or is that something that maybe you progressed from and moved on to something else? Maybe you can go through maybe your favorite instruments to play and what you're playing now.
Well, I started off on guitar and haven't really veered too far from that at all, to be honest. But I think Burks has got a far more interesting answer to that question.
I started playing music simply because my dad plays bass guitar. He plays very well. And when obviously you're like 11 and 12 and people are starting bands and stuff like that, everyone has a guitar or like a drum kit or something, but very few people at that age have access to a bass. And I had access to one, which sort of qualified me as bass player. So I played electric bass, pretty much from that point. That's basically how basically I had a bass, was asked to play bass, carried on playing bass. I got an upright bass, which is kind of, the natural progression when I was about 15. And I've played that pretty much ever since. And it's the same bass as well. I said I kind of dabble. I play a lot of other instruments badly. I play the piano. I write a lot on piano, but I kind of suck at it. And I've started in lockdown playing the trumpet and the viola, and I suck at both of them. But I think I'm playing some trumpet in the live stream that you'll see, if it hasn't been cut in retrospect, because my trumpet playing was too bad and I haven't seen it. But I should be playing trumpet.
That's cool.
And it's the first performance of me playing trumpet ever. I've never played trumpet for an audience before, and you'll see why.
What do you, aside from the instruments do you play, is there one that you've always wanted to play, or, really, looked up to somebody who was an amazing musician and used that instrument and thought that one day you might want to play that instrument?
I've always liked to pick up trumpet, to be fair. I know it's like pretty bait as a jazz musician, but I really do like Miles Davis. So yeah, maybe one day. That'd be my like desert island discs. What item would you take? I'd take a trumpet, I reckon.
You'd suck for ages.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
my
yeah.
experience. Is you just suck. One sucks. Yeah. No, my instrument of my sort of fictional instrument of choice was the trumpet, but now I play that, I've kind of lost the romanticism of it. I'd quite like now to play some sort of woodwind, maybe tenor sax, because then if you play strings, woodwind, and brass, it kind of helps. I would have done one of every musical instrument family, and then maybe it would have given you a different perspective. I don't know. Playing the trumpet's given me. Why am I talking about playing the trumpet all this time? It's not a very important thing.
It's part of you now.
Yeah, but it's it's changed. It's changed the way you look at music because you're not grooving anymore. You've got to play melodies, which I've never done.
Yeah, it's a totally different section of the musical piece there. Growing up in school, like I got stuck in band and I got stuck with the clarinet, and I really wanted the saxophone because that was like the cool thing to have. I was about like 12 or 13. And then I got stuck with the clarinet and I wasn't too happy. And every time I played, my dog would sing along. And that was a lot of fun for practicing. But I got more into like drum machines and beats and stuff. And maybe going into that, what are some of your inspirations for music, personally and as well as collectively?
Wow, it's such a can of worms, that, isn't it?
But what's interesting about this band is we've got the thing that we don't like each other's taste in music. Which is
a bit of that.
Yeah, there's a bit, which is a rarity, I think, in bands. We've got very different. You want to start with things that influence you?
I think things like I have specific influences for like different projects. I think so. Like I think my influences for Squid are probably Kamasi Washington, the Mahavishnu Orchestra, and what was I going to say? This stuff. Kind of like, I don't know, I think they're probably my main two because they're both like epic. Do you know what I mean? Like they're massive. They're like, it's all kind of like quite cinematic but in like not in a clean way, in a very like out there way. So I think they're probably my two main influences for Squid. But my personal music influences out of that are just like so broad. It probably wouldn't even be worth going into, really. I just kind of dig all kinds of different stuff. Just sound, really. From like the wettest folk you can imagine to kind of like really stupid, horrible drum and bass and everything in between those things. So, yeah.
My influences are really boring. Of like, I like sort of quite a lot of like first generation punk, and then quite a lot of just like blue note 50s and 60s jazz, and then just quite a lot of experimental music, and that's probably sort of like avant-garde music and 12-tone stuff. So that's probably the sort of, if I had to sum up my playing, is kind of those three things. With Squid, it's worth saying that like when we first started playing together, one of the first things we did was try and play a bunch of Jay Dilla beats. So that music was, especially around the time when we probably all first heard like his music, especially the kind of glitchy nature of it, the groove based but like quite jarring thing. Like it's quite cliche to say, but like Jay Dilla.
Change your life.
Not change my life, but like, Jay Dilla was quite a big influence on so many people from a jazz background, and then he's him, and then combined with the kind of surrealism, avant-gardism, and like jazz training is probably is probably for me where that music comes from.
So there's also quite a lot from the like just UK jazz scene as well, like like Shabaka Hutchins and his like various different projects are all like you know, pretty amazing. Yeah, and also local artists as well from Leeds and stuff. Like I think the tune we're writing at the moment is particularly like kind of has the sound of this band called Long-Legged Creatures.
Yeah, we just nicked their thing, didn't we?
You've got to nick the thing.
Great artists steal.
Yeah.
Well, don't we all borrow, right? to a degree, right? So I guess everybody, including myself, is curious as to how you came up with the name and what is the story behind Squid Ink. So let's get into that.
Well, I don't really know the joke, so I think you should.
No, Squid Ink. No, that's what they're named.
Squid Ink.
Yeah, no. Well, you named the band without really telling anyone.
I can't remember that.
You just, I think we just had a gig and you just named the band, and we were just like, okay, well, that's that job.
Yeah, I mean, for those watching, it's Squid Ink. It's spelled Skwidink. What I wanted to call it was Squid Ink. Squid spelt normally, and then ink spelled INC dot, so it'd be like Squid Incorporated.
That's
so
crap.
You know,
I don't
be like an anti-capitalist statement.
I don't like that at all.
But unfortunately, a ska band had took that. So
yeah, that's exactly.
yeah, that's where I was coming from. So yeah, it just became Squid Ink, and I think, like, I suppose I kind of thought like the oceans are pretty cool. Ink is pretty cool. I think there's quite a lot of like things you can derive aesthetically from ink, and then also, you know, what you use to like draw and write.
I've just remembered in the early days of Tight Lines, which is the record label that Will founded and I'm involved with, and all the music we make comes out of. In the early days of that, there was a vague sense, because Tight Lines was based about a friend of ours, Matty, who's also involved in Tight Lines. Dad used to watch a fishing show called It
wasn't called Tight Lines, but whenever they caught a fish on the show, they'd reel it in and go, Tight Lines.
And like, because of that, you kind of you thought maybe early on we should have like a nautical theme.
Yeah.
And I think Squid Ink was like a variant of that.
Yeah.
Of like, maybe all the bands should have nautical names.
Yeah.
Which is a mental idea, but like one we should have definitely stuck with.
Well, because we were also going to call the band, before it was called Squid Ink, actually, I think me and you wanted to call it this, was Yo Swine. But then we chose it Squid Ink instead. But then we named another band Hey Fish Yo Swine, but now it's just called Hey Fish.
It's a mess. Yeah, the whole thing's a mess.
Awesome. Okay, so that's a really cool story, and you know, I'm always curious because oftentimes you know, artists or collectives have very interesting names, and just to kind of uncover the stories are really cool. So let's dive into the song, I guess, right? Chang Soi. Maybe you can give us the lowdown on, you know, why you named it that. You know, what does the song mean? Maybe who played what on the track and that kind of stuff. Just give us the juice on the song.
Well, it was initially called Feeling the Photon, which was a quote from the great saxophonist and composer Wayne Shorter, when he was kind of off on a bit of a rant about the cosmos.
There's an unbelievable video. It was called Feeling the Photon. I think it's still got that name on the session video. Is because there's an amazing video of Wayne Shorter, who's still alive, was still playing up until recently. Sax player, played with Miles Davis, played with Weather Report, wrote for everyone, amazing living legend. But he's a very old man now. And there's an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson for some fuck knows reason. And Neil deGrasse Tyson was like, "Can you convert anything into music?" And he goes like, "Yes." And then Neil deGrasse Tyson explains like an atom leaving the sun and hitting your eyelid, and what happens in the sort of 7 seconds or 7 minutes it takes for the atom to get to your thing. And then tells this long story, and then Wayne Shorter goes, "Yeah, you're just like feeling the photon. It's like this one," and then goes like, "So you can convert that into music?" And he goes, "Yeah, I can convert that into music," and just plays one note for about 30 seconds, and like they all have to sit in silence while he's just going like, and he goes, "You're feeling," and he kind of explains it afterwards. He's like, "You're feeling the photon, feeling this one thing." it's like it's mental. I can't believe it got put on television. It's like quite
it's out there, but that's what used to be cool.
Yeah, and then
yeah, and then you tell the joke, though. I reckon.
I'm not telling the joke, but my father, as I was growing up, I was like kind of dyslexic and dyspraxic, and I would get things confused and get things muddled, and he would go, no, Chang Soy, and it was like I just kind of thought that word meant like you've got it the wrong way around, blah 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 blah. You know, like you've just gotten a bit confused, like, you know. And I was just like, and I grew up with this thing, and then years later I asked him, what does it mean? And he told me the most filthy joke I've maybe ever heard that ends with the punchline Chang Soy. And basically I don't want to tell the joke because I just it's not really suitable for it's not suitable for broadcast. I can
if anyone sees us live at any point,
we'll tell the joke, and this story will make sense. But I'm not gonna discredit my father's name by telling this joke, because you'll be like, I can't believe he said that.
Should we get Dan on here to tell the joke? No, maybe next time.
Yeah, no, he won't want to. I don't think anyone particularly wants to hear it. But yeah, it's named in tribute. And I believe when we first played this song, my dad got up on stage. I asked my dad to get up on stage, and he told the joke. Yeah, and it was great. But like, one day, maybe next time we can release it as like an add-on extra of like the joke. The
remix with the joke.
Yeah,
with the joke
to lead it off, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like the Aristocrats or one of those jokes. Yeah.
So who's playing what on the track?
So as per most Squid tunes, I'm playing guitar, Ferg is playing bass, double bass, George McDonald is playing keyboards. He's playing like a Rhodes sound on his main keys. He's playing pretty disgusting synth line on like a little micro Korg. And George is playing drums. Other George is playing drums, and that's kind of like the general lineup. But with that setup, we like to go quite wild with what sounds we can get out of the instruments and stuff. So I'm going through a shitload of pedals, using different delays and distortions and overdrives and octave pedals and that kind of thing. I don't even know what you're doing, Ferg.
No, lots of cheap eBay pedal pads. Yeah.
So the song also, for the NFT, right? It also has another version with the live version. And is this the studio version, the one that's going to be on the actual NFT? Like, what's the difference between the two versions?
It's not actually been recorded before, apart from the live version. So that is it.
Yeah, it sounds good like that.
Yes.
Let's not risk trying to play it. Well, you hear us, fuck it up when we try and play it, again. It's not as good as that time. Let's not touch that beast. Just let it lie. Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that I like, particularly about live music, is that every time you hear it and see it, it's different. There's different nuances to it compared to recorded music. And what are your feelings like? Like, obviously, as a band who loves to play live, obviously, I think that would be where your heart is. But what are your thoughts about like studio and recording in studio and the differences between the two?
Well, we improvise a lot as a band, though there's set structures. There's always quite a lot of, and obviously improvisation is one of those things that's like when improvisation was invented, if it was invented, it wasn't meant to be bottled and contained. It's about doing it in the moment. So it's always a difficult balance, especially with this music, of trying to because there's stuff that is trying to balance the kind of improvisational nature with the composed material, because when you can play something that's great live that doesn't necessarily stand up on a recording of, especially, I mean, it's true about everything, but like, you know, especially for solos, you can play a solo that works fantastically live, but then on repeated listens basically just doesn't have a coherent kind of structure. So there's kind of, those problems are kind of a difficulty of recording any kind of improvised music. But I think we certainly struggle with it, of trying to bottle something that's kind of meant to exist once, you know, which is kind of, there's probably a good NFT sort of link there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, because you know, I haven't seen very many NFTs that have been done that are sort of that like live performance, or you know, have those elements to it. So maybe let's jump into the NFT side of it, and just maybe give your thoughts on, you know, the idea of NFTs and this idea of a new format or a new way to release music and connect with artists, and you know, just share what you know, and maybe what you want to know.
Who would?
Well, I will go first and say there's definitely a limit to my knowledge. The limit's probably lower than you might think, but I suppose
There's a limit to all knowledge.
Well, Wayne Short wouldn't say that.
Yeah, Wayne Short would say that.
But yeah, I mean, it's a really exciting prospect for the future of the music industry and, you know, arts in general, I suppose. And I think it could be a really great way of giving power back to artists in a world that where actually all that power has often been taken away by, unfortunately, I suppose, technological advancements. So it's actually really cool to see a technological advancement
and corporations.
Yeah,
that's the big one, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's been cool to see. Actually, it kind of felt like for a while, like this, you know, this, obviously the technological advancements of the past like 10 or 20 years or whatever could only mean bad things in terms of royalties and in terms of distribution, that kind of thing. And it seemed that like streaming was just going to be like the be all and end all of the music industry. But it's really cool to see that actually we've got now potentially like a way out of that, you know, like a little bit of a glimmer of hope for artists like releasing things digitally.
What's interesting about that is you always think that like the thing that you're living with now is the final iteration, like the people who thought gramophones were going to exist were like, the technology can't possibly go past this. And then like in the 40s and new stuff, and they go to 78s and then 45 and then 33s and 45s. And you know, kind of the whole time everyone kind of thinks that's like, you can't imagine the future in front of you. So this is like a potential, maybe interesting look into something of like, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah, it is quite interesting to see, you know, in terms of like the technology on the technology side, and you know, compared to the physical music side. And you know, NFTs I find are the closest thing to a physical item that you can get digitally, which I think is pretty exciting, as well as like what you mentioned earlier, which is true, is about putting the power back into the hands of the artists, reconnecting them with their fans directly in a financial relationship, peer-to-peer, which I think is fabulous, and so much opportunity and potential there to kind of build and share, especially with various communities and empowering the communities. And, you know, this is kind of our direction with DAO Records as well, is to really, you know, explore what we can do and experiment with the technology and various elements of it. And I'm really excited to see, like what you said, what's going to be the next iteration of this, right? Like, how is it going to look in 5 years' time? So if you could, like, say, put on your imagination caps and imagine what an NFT or an audio NFT or whatever you think it'll be, what would that look like, say, in 5 years in your imagination?
I don't know, but which is an easy cop out. But what I think is going to be really interesting is if there's some way of because I've been interested in a while of what I was speaking about earlier, about that sort of dichotomy between improvisation in a live sense and improvisation in a performance sense. previously you had things where people would play in improvised music, so in Indian classical music or jazz, or certain folk musics and things. You basically have a version that was recorded, and that was the final version. And then you had these live events where improvisation would happen and be never repeated again. And NFTs might, in our little I'm thinking very small jazz kind of improvised music world, there might be this kind of really cool intermediary thing where basically there are many versions of the same thing, of one of ones of many different improvisations on the same source material that basically acquire worth through their scarcity. Well, it's not only about worth, but basically giving value not to the singular performance in the same of like listening to John Coltrane play on Blue Train on this day in 1956. People know that, but we didn't get to hear what he did the day before or the day after on those tunes. And like, I know you can go back and listen to all that stuff, but we might get really interesting things where we get 10 takes. Someone releases a single of the same tune 10 times with like artistic ideas like that become really interesting, which is something that no other medium could, like that's, when people like when people made albums on vinyl, they made them 20-minute aside because that's what the medium kind of sounded best on. And like, if we start doing things with NFTs where we go like, well, like the medium like accommodates this mode of artistic expression which no other medium would before, we might get something quite interesting like that. That's not really an answer to your question, but it's like what I was.
No, I think that's a great answer. And it's got my mind turning already in terms of the potential of incorporating NFTs as future sound recorders. That translate everything into NFTs and potentially broadcast that even live into the metaverse. And we are right now, this interview is live inside CryptoVoxels in our DAOdrops venue, the Bittrees Plaza. And, there's going to be avatars all around us here. And I hope that both the three of you, well, your dad included, who's on the other screen.
He's not my father.
Oh.
No, he is. Don't worry.
Yeah. And so
I hope.
So I hope you're enjoying like the vibe inside the virtual space, as well as where you are now recording this live with me, and witnessing what it's like with a DAO drop inside CryptoVoxels and the awesome things that we can do there, including live broadcasts of your future performances, even and this type of thing, to mix the virtual and the physical worlds together and combine the NFTs in that sort of way as well. So on that note, do you just give a couple of shout outs? We're going to close the interview and we're going to get to the music.
Cool. I suppose last thing I'd like to say is if everyone could check out the label that we both kind of mentioned before called Tight Lines, which we've been running in Leeds for the past 5 or 6 years. There's loads of amazing bands on it who do similarly daft, punky jazz sounds, similar to Squid Ink. It's very much kind of like a community hub in Leeds, and like through our different kind of events and festivals, we try and like bind the different kind of artistic communities of Leeds. And it's like a really important thing for us and many artists in the city. So yeah, check out Tight Lines. Obviously we're on all the usual socials and stuff, on Bandcamp. And yeah, check it out. Get in touch with us as well. We want to hear from people.
Nice. So thank you so much, Squid Ink, Fergus, Will. Appreciate your time and coming through and having this conversation. It was really fun to chat with you and learn about your music, your artistic endeavors, and where you come from in Leeds and what's happening there with the music and everything. So appreciate you. And let's get into this. CryptoVoxels, blaze your fire emojis. Let's do this. One love, everybody. This is Vandal signing off. DAOdrops, another interview right here with Squid Ink. Get the NFT. Let's go.
Nice one.